Hello and welcome to Rebecca Assimilates. So today we are going to be looking at 5 quick techniques that can help you get through a scene that you're finding tricky to write. It might be that, I don't know, you're just not quite sure why it's not working, so you've gone past it, you've written past it, you're writing other scenes and you're hoping you'll come back to it and it will have just written itself, but that's probably unlikely to happen. So I'm going to have a look at 5 things that can really help and that I have done, and they've helped me. So you just want something to mix it up and get your creativity going again. So technique to try number 1, have your characters zone out from the moment. So, they've experienced something's happened to your characters, and you want a reader to understand completely what's happened. But the thing is, these characters, things are happening to them that are they're things that readers probably haven't experienced, but you want it to be relatable for a reader, and you obviously are finding it difficult to write this bit. So it can be quite good to go back to a memory in the character's past that they can use to convey the feeling that they are having. So an example would be Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games, when Prim's name is called at the Reaping, when her sister's name is called, and it's very unlikely because her name's only in, the big jar of names once compared to all the other names. And obviously Katniss does not want her sister to be entered into an arena of death. And it's just a horrible, horrible moment for her. And the way that the author, Suzanne Collins, gets around this is at the end of chapter 1, the name Prim is called. It's great, gets straight into it. The very beginning of chapter 2, Katniss is thinking about when, she's zoned out, and she's thinking about when she climbed a tree just past the border fence, the barrier fence, which, she crosses and she shouldn't, but she does it quite a lot. And she's up in the tree, and all of a sudden she just whacks the floor really hard, and all of the air is shooted out of her body, and it hurts. It's a whack. She didn't see it coming. She is shocked, she is surprised, she is in pain, and she realises she must have fallen asleep in the tree and fallen out. And that is the zoned out example of memory that is used to convey to readers exactly how she feels in that moment when her sister's name is called. And it's definitely a much more relatable feeling for readers. Another example would be Jo Hart's The Last Girl. So Zoe, the main character, something horrible is happening to her. She's being assaulted and she's quite tired, and she has kind of given up. She's not going to bother fighting back. That story is for a young adult readership, really. And it can be quite hard when you're writing for a certain age group to not, there's some things you just can't really go into details about. So the zoned out technique has been used, and basically she goes into her memory and she thinks about when she found a baby bird that was just nearly dead, and she takes it back in with her into her room, and she nurses it back to health, and she gives it food and water, and she makes sure it exercises, and she makes its wings get strong until days and days and days and days later this little baby bird actually flies away. And it's the resilience of that baby bird and how it flew away and how she just wants to be able to follow it. It's that memory that sparks her being able to have the energy and the courage to fight back against her attacker. And she does. And what a great way as well to convey a feeling in a scene and get around the details that are so difficult to write. Technique number 2, switch the perspective, mix it up a bit. Obviously you could, it works better this if there's more than one character in the scene, but write from a different character's point of view. See things from how they're seeing. If you are writing in third person and following a particular character, you might follow a different character. You might actually think, oh, I'm going to mix it up and go for first person on this character and see what happens. This obviously isn't something you might want to keep in your finished novel. It's an experiment to help you see from a different perspective different things about the scene, and it's going to give you the motivation you need to then write it the way you want to. But it can be really interesting to see what other characters are seeing and how they approach what's happening in the scene and how they feel about it. And it's going to reveal a whole lot more to you than what you thought was happening in the scene. And it's just a really great way to experiment and get writing, and that's what we want to happen. Technique number 3, use all of the senses. So obviously sight is a really important one. We are describing what's happening a lot. But sometimes the character could close their eyes and write what they hear and write what's far away and what's close and what's getting closer. Obviously we write feelings, emotional feelings. What about physical feelings? What about what they're actually touching? Taste, smell. I mean, obviously, like if you shut your eyes, the other senses are supposed to get more heightened, aren't they? So are they smelling something? Is there a particular smell, or is there a taste of that smell? Like they don't have to be actually eating, but maybe they can taste the smell. It's so disgusting, it's got into their mouth. But it's something that can really be used well to get a scene going, to give a really nice 3D view on a scene. It's not something you want to do all the time because it can be quite boring for a reader. And also, you know, in real life we filter a lot out of the senses. Our brains know exactly what we need to know and what we don't, and that's kind of what you want to do as a writer. You don't need to give them everything all the time, but when there's a tricky scene it can be quite good to think about other elements. Technique number 4. So scale it down. So you could be writing something that is quite big and grand and you've got a lot of details to get in, and that might be what you're finding tricky. You're finding it hard because you're getting away from the characters and you don't want to just write description all the time. And one really good way to do it is just to zone in on a particular character, even if they've never been in it before. It can be great, or maybe even if it's like a terrifying scene and you want to maybe zone in on a character who's usually very tough, nothing scares them, and actually now we've zoned in on them and they're scared, they're shaking. I mean, I've seen it in quite a few films, like soldiers going to war or fighters going into a battle, an arena. They're shaking and they've actually wet themselves through fear, and that's a really great human way to show just one person's fear can really convey to a reader how petrifying a moment is without it having to be this grand descriptive monster. Okay, so technique number 5. Change the emotions of characters. See if that can help mix it up a bit. I mean, this might again not be something you want to keep, but it's a really good experiment. So maybe you've got a character who is quite grumpy and moany. Oh, it's just so difficult. Maybe make them whimsical. Maybe have them crack a joke. See what happens. See how other people react to them. See if the scene then plays out differently. And if it, like, I don't know, if it's fun, and then it's the fun that you need to help you keep writing. Or maybe the character or characters are really serious and stoic and, you know, something's happening. They're like matching up against each other and it's kind of like a big ego moment, and what you really don't want to happen is one of them fall over or one of them fart. Will someone crack a smile who was trying to be serious? I mean, the thing is, you want your characters to appear human, realistic, and we all fall over sometimes, and we all fart sometimes at the worst possible moments. So it can be quite good just to throw these things in there and mix it up and see what happens. If you could, please comment below and tell me how you feel about what I've said. Have you tried it? Do you already try it? Do you have other techniques that you find are brilliant for when you're experiencing a little bit of like writer's block and you can't get through a particular scene, you're finding it tricky? Do you have anything else that you do? That's been it. That's me for today, done on 5 very quick ways to try and fix a scene that you are avoiding and you really shouldn't. You need to just do it, face it head on. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon.